Hi, good morning. I'm Lee, and I'm presenting Understanding and Acting on Curiosity. This is a reflection of a module taught on curiosity to master's level students in a business school. First of all, something about my approach. This is an intrinsic case study. It's simply a point of interest for me. It's something that was new to my teaching, new to my practice, and I think relatively new for students as well. Therefore, my approach to looking is as one as an action researcher. I have 25 years experience of teaching in a business school, some enterprise modules, but a lot of different subjects as well. But I look at each opportunity to practice as an opportunity to reflect and innovate as well. But there's also something of the autoethnographer in me, and this is applicable here. It's important for me to say that I come from a family of creatives who have developed business ideas around their creative skills. And so often they talk to me about business acumen. When you work in a business school, there are a number of students with strong business acumen, but often don't have the opportunity to have conversations around their curiosities and how curiosities might fire creativity and how that might go on to help them develop ideas and perhaps engage in opportunity spotting. And I really wanted to explore that with them. So these questions arose: what curiosities do business students have? And by curiosity, I'm interested in general curiosities, which means the desire to ask questions and explore something in more detail because of its interest to you, but also specific curiosity, which is about honing an old problem or an issue that the student wants to resolve. I was also interested, therefore, what practices help us explore that, and then what are the implications for curriculum. So the module is called Curious Mindset. I have my good colleague John Thompson to thank for helping me develop that. So we developed a master's level option module open to all students on master's level management programs in the business schools. That could be economics, fintech, or indeed marketing. It was assessed via a portfolio of personal development. I've used portfolios a lot in the past for professional practice on programs like the MBA, but I think they are really resonant for looking at enterprise skills development. The kind of issues I wanted students to explore through assessment were: how were they curious? So what is the nature of their curiosity? What are they curious about? And then what does that mean for them? And that could be anything from how they go on to fuel their curiosity, or whether they're actually interested in venture creation. What I didn't want to do here was force students into converting curiosity into business opportunity and having to develop a business plan. I actually wanted to break that link. Recruited 17 students, and a number of those students were international, and it was their first UK learning experience. So the teaching and learning challenge was really one of exploring the intention to look at our curiosities, and that could be very expandable, a bit like a balloon. It could get bigger and bigger and bigger, but I was very aware of constraints. Timetables constrain in terms of when we explore something. Classrooms can be a little bit restrictive in terms of seating and what you can achieve in terms of moving around and using facilities. But also modules, by their very nature, are a specified unit of learning. They have to have a clear title, they have a number of outcomes that we must check against, and the assessment needs to be conventional in the sense that it is comparable to other M-level modules. And also, as an autoethnographer, I'm aware of my own prior experiences and how sometimes I restrict my curiosity and creativity because I think it's too difficult to do within a module context. Okay, so this is what I did. I did engage in different learning practices that I had experimented with before but hadn't made them central to a module. But there were really two premises that I wanted to explore in this module. First of all, engagement of the senses, that we're not just seeing opportunities, we're using taste, we're using smell, we're listening to sounds, really using those senses to fire our curiosities. And then when we've started to articulate our curiosities, to be playful with them. And playfulness is about doing what you do because it interests you, but without a strong purpose. And as I mentioned earlier on, I didn't want students to feel that they had to develop a business idea from their curiosities, freeing them up a little bit. So we started with music appreciation, and I created an exhibition of curiosity. What I was trying to do here was get the students to recognize that artists and artistic content like songs, song lyrics, they fuel our imagination, they drive our curiosity. So we're already familiar with this, but perhaps we rely on other people to kickstart that process. So we then moved into photo elicitation, where I was encouraging the students to be artists and to start capturing and articulating things that were of interest to them. We then moved on to Lego Serious Play, which is an incredibly good way of getting students to start to express what their curiosities are, because when you build a Lego model, you need to explain the story of the model to the other participants in the session. And it really encourages use of metaphor, and this idea of communicating your curiosity to be understood by other people. As we move towards the end of the module, I used a reception elevator pitch assessment. The reception elevator pitch takes something familiar like pitching an idea to a business panel, but instead of it being a panel, it becomes a party. So it had food, it had refreshments. I invited lots of different guests. And the point is that the students were pitching again and again and again to different people. So they were receiving feedback, using that feedback and modifying what they were doing within that session. So what did I see demonstrated in terms of outcomes for the students in assessments? Well, what were they curious about? That didn't necessarily, these factors listed on the left, you might find in a new venture creation module or an entrepreneurship module where students are asked to come up with an idea. They were interesting, lots of social curiosity being expressed through these ideas, the fascination of what people do with their waste, the fascination of how other people manage a healthy lifestyle. I was interested in the idea of blogging. A couple of students mentioned that blogging was important to them, and they could start to see that people's curiosities are in their own right value propositions. Travel and navigation is also expressed by international students that talked about some of the difficulties and issues and curiosities they had around what it meant to go somewhere new and to be part of a new learning community. What skills are developed in pursuing curiosity, reflection, storytelling? So the reflective element comes in understanding where to next with my curiosity, and the storytelling was coming from letting other people know where your curiosities were going, but also drawing other people into your curiosities. Some students reference this idea of becoming more open through this module, open to feedback, and also a lot of mutual respect developing from listening to one another's stories and ideas about curiosity. The points here about creative thinking, divergent thinking are things perhaps I would expect to see on a venture creation module. So for me, the standout elements are about openness, reflection, and storytelling. But there were other curious outcomes for me as a module developer as well. First of all, that who was attracted to the module wasn't necessarily a student on an entrepreneurship or enterprise route on the master's level programs, behavioural economists and marketing students. And on conversations with them, the revelation was their curiosity is about the consumer, the mindset of a consumer, the psychographic profile of people. So that drew them to this module. In terms of the portfolios, what stood out here in terms of in relation to other portfolios I've assessed before is emotional expression in assessed work. Students talking about how their curiosities made them feel and building links with their self-motivation. And finally, the reception elevator pitch was discussed in an interesting way. I thought that students might actually reference developing their communication and pitching skills. What the reference, the real learning for them was this idea of getting lots of different types of feedback and processing that and altering the pitch and being incredibly grateful that they had got to share their ideas with so many different people. So what then are the implications for curiosity on the curriculum? There are a lot of similarities with reflective practice modules. This might be down to my prior experience, but I wondered, having completed this module, whether we could rebadge some aspects of reflective practice as curiosity. It might bring more imagination and more play to that experience. As a prerequisite to new venture creation modules, I think a student having learned about their curiosity will have developed the art of emotional expression, and that would be really, really helpful as you go on to develop things like empathy maps. There was also the real benefit of lots of feedback here based on early ideas, and it didn't seem to kill the spirit. Students were incredibly grateful for getting lots of different types of feedback, giving them food for thought. And then finally, from a module design perspective, I think that what's important when you do something very different on the curriculum, for me, like curiosity, is to find other modules that fuel and feed it. And I was very lucky that I had a colleague teaching a circular economy module. And so we were able to encourage the students to take the curiosity out there into that module and also transfer their learning in. So thank you for the opportunity to present, and I look forward to your questions.